People don't disappear in Siberia, not suddenly, not quietly. Out here, the land notices everything. The forest remembers footsteps. Snow keeps records. Even the silence has weight. If someone leaves their home in the morning, they are expected back, always, because this place does not forgive mistakes. And the people who live here learned that early. The village sat far from any road, far from maps people actually use, surrounded by forest, miles and miles of trees that all look the same, until they don't. In winter, the cold presses down on everything. It slows movement, it slows thought, metal cracks. Breath turns sharp, sound dies quickly. At night, the forest doesn't sleep. It listens. People here didn't talk much about danger. Talking didn't change anything. You checked your gear. You moved carefully. You trusted the land because you had no other choice. That was the rule, and everyone followed it. Strangers didn't come here. There was no reason to. No work, no roads, no signal. If someone appeared, everyone would know. Which is why what happened next made no sense at all. In the winter of 1994, the forest began taking people. Not during storms, not during darkness. It happened on normal days, quiet days, days that looked exactly like every other day before them. That was the first sign something was wrong. Because in Siberia, when things go wrong, they are never subtle, they announce themselves. This time, they didn't. The forest stayed still, no wind, no warning, no sound out of place, just silence. And the feeling that something was watching, waiting. The first man disappeared on his way home. It was early afternoon. The sky was clear, the cold was familiar. He had walked that path hundreds of times, from the forest line to his front door. Less than 10 minutes, he never arrived. At first, no one panicked. People here understood delays. A broken boot, a snap strap, a wrong turn in fresh snow. They waited. Waiting was normal, but when the light began to fade, and the cold deepened, they went looking. They followed his footprints easily. The snow was fresh, untouched. Each step was clear, each mark familiar. The trail led into the trees. And then it stopped, not scattered, not disturbed, just ended. No signs of a struggle, no broken branches, no dragged snow, nothing, as if he had stood still and simply vanished. People stared at the empty ground longer than they should have. No one spoke. There was nothing to say. They searched until dark, then until the cold became dangerous. Finally, they returned home. That was another rule. You don't fight the night here. The forest doesn't lose. Everyone knew this, even if they didn't want to admit it. The second disappearance happened 3 days later. A woman, an experienced hunter. She went out at dawn, took her rifle, her radio, her dogs. Only the dogs came back, alone, silent. After that, the village changed. People locked doors. They checked windows twice. No one walked alone anymore. Children were kept inside. At night, lights stayed on longer. And when the forest creaked, no one asked questions, because everyone felt it now, the same thought, unspoken. Something was wrong, not broken, not angry, watching, learning paths, learning habits, waiting for the next mistake. The searches became routine, not hopeful, just necessary. Small groups, careful steps. They marked trees, counted minutes, listened more than they spoke. The forest responded with nothing. No birds, no wind, only their own breathing. Silence in the forest is never normal. Animals leave. Sounds pull back. It means something larger has claimed the space. Something that doesn't hunt loudly. Something that waits until everything else is gone. People began to notice patterns, disappearances near the same paths, the same time of day. Always clear weather, always short distances, never deep in the forest, as if whatever it was didn't need to chase, only to stand still. One man said the trees felt closer. No one laughed. Another said the forest no longer echoed. Voices didn't travel. They fell flat, absorbed by bark and snow, like sound had become heavy. At night, people stayed awake. Not out of fear, out of listening. Floors creaked, wood cooled. Sometimes a sound would come from the edge of the trees. Not footsteps, not animals, something slower. The radios began to fail, not completely, just enough. Voices distorted, signals stretched. A word would repeat itself, then vanish. People stopped using them. It felt better not to hear anything at all. No one said the word monster, or spirit, or predator. They used safer words: weather, stress, bad luck, but every excuse sounded thinner than the last. The first silence was not the forest. It was the people. Fewer conversations, shorter sentences, eyes avoiding the trees. Because deep down, they already knew. Whatever was out there was not lost. It was settling in. The first sign was not a sound. It was a feeling. The sense that the forest was no longer empty, not full, not alive, occupied. As if something had arrived and decided to stay. People began to feel watched before they ever saw anything. Eyes on their backs, pressure in the chest, the urge to turn around, for no clear reason, and when they did, there was never anything there. Tracks appeared where no tracks should be. Too wide, too even, not animal, not human. They didn't follow paths, they crossed them, cutting straight through snow and brush, as if distance didn't matter. One morning, a door was open, no damage, no broken lock, just open. Inside, everything was untouched, food still warm, boots by the wall. The owner was gone, as if he had stepped outside, and never needed to come back. After that, no one stayed alone. Not even for minutes. People moved in pairs. Then in groups, they spoke louder. Not to communicate, to prove they were still there, that they hadn't been taken quietly. The dogs refused to enter the trees. They pulled back, whined, sat down in the snow. Animals that had hunted here for years now refused to cross an invisible line. People noticed. They always noticed that too late. At night, lights flickered. Not off, never off, just dim. As if something passed between the house and the forest, blocking the distance, measuring the space between walls and trees. That was when the thought became clear, not spoken, but shared. This was not a thing passing through. It wasn't lost, or wandering. It knew the village now, and it was deciding how close it could get. They stopped searching for people. Not officially, but in their movements, in their eyes. Searches became shorter, routes became safer. No one admitted it out loud. But hope had frozen, just like everything else. The forest began giving things back, a glove, a boot, a torn sleeve. Always clean, placed carefully, not buried, not scattered, left where they would be found. As if the forest wanted to be understood, there were no bodies, no blood, no bones, only absence. It felt intentional, as if whatever was taking people didn't want them damaged, didn't want them broken, just removed. One elder remembered old stories, not legends, warnings, about places where the forest grows wrong, where paths repeat themselves, where people walk for minutes and lose hours, where something learns by watching. They checked the ice near the river. It was thick, reliable, but beneath it, the water moved strangely, slow, heavy, as if something passed below. Without breaking the surface, without urgency, people stopped going near the water, not because of danger, because of recognition. The feeling you get when you realize something knows you noticed it and is waiting to see what you will do next. Sleep became shallow. Dreams repeated the same image. Walking, stopping, realizing the forest had grown closer, not physically, but intentionally. The truth beneath the ice was never named. It didn't need a name. Names make things smaller. This was older than fear, older than the village, and it had found something here, worth staying for. Spring came slowly. The snow didn't melt, it loosened. The forest breathed again. Birds returned. Wine moved branches. Everything looked normal, and that was the worst part, because nothing had been fixed, only hidden. Some people left, quietly, no goodbyes, no explanations. They packed essentials, avoided the trees. They didn't say where they were going, only that staying no longer felt possible. Others stayed, because this was home, because leaving felt like admitting defeat. They repaired fences, cleared paths, and pretended. The forest had returned to normal. It hadn't. No more disappearances happened. That's what the records say. But records don't count. What almost happened? Moments when someone stopped walking. Moments when the forest felt one step closer than before. Children were warned never to wander, never to follow paths that felt familiar but wrong, never to trust silence. Some lessons don't fade. They embed themselves into how people breathe. Years later, the village grew smaller, houses empty, doors locked. The forest reclaimed the edges. Trees where fences once stood. Roots breaking foundations slowly, patiently. The land always waits longer than people. Nothing ever returned. Not the missing. Not answers. Only space. Only quiet. The kind that feels occupied. As if something is still there. Not hunting. Just aware. In Siberia, people say the forest never takes without reason. If someone vanishes, they were meant to be noticed, or remembered, or kept, and somewhere, between the trees and the silence, something is still listening.